A 6-6 year for Washington in 2024. What will the projection look like for 2025? Let's first look at our projections from the last 4 seasons. In 2021, we projected this team to go 8-4. They went 4-8, and this is with our projection formula, our projected record formula. This is not from our predictions, just from the formula that you're about to see in this video. In 2022, projected to go 7-5. They went 10-2. So kind of flip-flopped. Did a lot worse in 21, a lot better in 22. In 23, projected to go 10-2. They beat that, went 12-0. Although I would say that 10-2 projection was pretty fair. They had some close wins in there. Very easily could have gone 10-2. And then last year, projected to go 7-5. They went 6-6. So we're very close to the projection. We did miss it by 1 game. But let's see what the projection looks like for this year. Again, here's the schedule. This is the scale that we use. So this is all based off of our tier system, our tier rankings. Washington is a tier 4 team. They are in tier number 4, which means if they play another tier 4 team, that's a 50-50 game. It'll be in the white. If they play a tier 5 team, it'll be a 61 to 70% game. It'll be in the purple. But if that game's on the road, it does then move to a 50-50 game. And that's kind of the way this works. And again, this is just a formula. It's a mathematical formula. There is no human element to this. No predictions here. Our predictions won't come until after spring football, after Memorial Day. That's usually when we start them. One way to look at this, again, this is not the way that we figure this formula, but you can look at it this way because it kind of works out. If the game's in the white, it's basically a game where I think the point spread is usually going to be around 3, 4, 5 points. In the purple, more like a 7, 8, 9 point spread. Then in the blue, double digits, over 80%, maybe 20 or more. Those are pretty much guaranteed wins. And that's where we'll start. Colorado State and UC Davis, these are pretty much guaranteed wins for Washington. Again, this is all based on them being a tier 4 team. They could really improve. And this is a team I think that has that capability. They might be a tier 3 team this year, and that would change these numbers just a little bit. But those are their easy wins. And then you also look at Purdue being not quite in the green, but still a very, you feel confident that the Washington's going to take care of business in this game at home against they were the worst team in the Big Ten last year. Let's be honest here. Purdue was not very good, and I don't really expect them to be much better this year. Maybe a little better. We'll see. So those are your wins that you gotta have. If you're a Washington fan, you gotta have these 3 wins. Then you look at these games in the purple. Washington State on the road, Rutgers at home. You really need to win these games. You feel like you're the better team. Again, they should be a touchdown favorite, I think, in both of these. Not guaranteed wins, and they'll be tough, hard-fought games, I'm sure, but those are games you really want to win as well. So that gives you 5 wins where I think Washington is definitely going to be favored. The rest of the schedule, they're going to be underdogs, or those games are going to pretty much be toss-ups. So let's go to Illinois now. I think they're going to be an underdog in this game by about a touchdown or so. Illinois is they're 2 tiers above Washington. Game is at Washington. That's why it's in the yellow instead of the orange, because Michigan's in the same tier as Illinois, but they're in the orange because that game is on the road. So that's the difference there. Ohio State and Oregon are in tier 1. Michigan and Illinois are in tier 2. So yeah, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, those will be very, very tough games for Washington. If I was just doing the numbers here, I would give them a better chance to beat Michigan than Ohio State and Oregon, even though that game is on the road. But again, this is all based off of our formula. And I do think those numbers are pretty fair. I do think Washington will be a double-digit underdog in all 3 of those games. If I had to guess, I'd say 11 points against Michigan and maybe 14 to 16 points against Oregon and Ohio State. That's just a guess. I don't know. But those are going to be tough. Those 3 games for sure. Illinois, that's the game you really want to – if you were to get a big win this year, Washington, their opportunity, I think, is at home against Illinois. That's their chance for a big win. And if they lose these other 3 games in the orange and they beat Illinois and win the rest, they could get to 9-3 very realistically. But with Maryland, Wisconsin, and UCLA, these are all toss-up games. These are 50-50 games. Problem for Washington is all 3 of them are on the road. That means it's going to be tough to win all 3. That's going to be tough. We'll see how it plays out. But you'd like to have 1 or 2 of those at home. So what's the projection for Washington? Well, if we average all this out, again, if you split your 50-50 games, you've got 1.5 losses there. And then if they were to lose, let's say they just lose the games in the orange and the yellow, then you're at, you add 4 more losses. So then you're at 5.5 losses. And That's kind of how it plays out. Again, you have to look at the odds on all these games. Washington State, Rutgers, there's a chance they lose those games, but there's a chance they win against Illinois. And when you average it all out, you get 7-5. So this is actually the same projection for Washington as last season. They were one game under that. We'll see if they can actually make it to their projection this year and get to 7-5. I think that's a fair projection. Again, I see 9-3 as a possibility. But I also see 6-6, very possible as well. So kind of in the middle there, 7-5. I would say 6-6, 7-5, 8-4. Those are your most likely scenarios. So yeah, I do think 7-5 is a very fair projection for Washington in 2025.